abusia minchi anamisa so emu akwaba so nkoso emfa o channel so ha eda so ye be media gate abusia for ya de the minority leader Alexander AfenyoMarkins see papa eda just be bia oda no ano eden yes amanebo any echemu echese during the vetting of our acting chief justice Baffoe Bonnie abusia ya de Alexander AfenyoMarkins echese questions are akase obi se papa abusia allegedly omo kira wo mi se papa yo na ensem a Alexander kwese eba ya na okaka eche papa yi no ano eden na echese wo hwe se ne osi kasa allegedly no omo kira it was a threat to a Chief Justice Baffoe Bonnie na busia abra ode ne nsem no ade atudwa wie no kira omo kira ho owie ya no one the minority group no abusia omo sorry ya omo APA na omo kira sa aniamo hu we ya waye ade akire Baffoe Bonnie wo momgu party ene some appointees bi enoma bi abusuafo omo aye no chese momum na mo chese nsem wo mo dada ena Alexander so asa akoye sa ade we ade atia Baffoe Bonnie na omo chi Alexander da ne refi no ho se owo police assault case bi wo ho a chese ho nsem no afi na proceedings koso na abusuya ene omo kan nsem ade ache Alexander AfenyoMarkins chese omocho munsemu an threat a odema Baffoe Bonnie ene ensemu a okaka ye ne enhoma bi a waye no abusuya Baffoe Bonnie ebetumi ama Alexander AfenyoMarkins ne ho akire no papa abusuya omoche ba bi am party mum ne amoaye in the past 8 years na chese abusuya chese Chief Justice mu ena abusuya nsem na no ode nsem na no ode we de ma mekasa ntete pese ekwo Hugotie and somewhat just about to do muchra a crime be also say Baffoe Bonnie Chief Justice say we dealing with Alexander AfenyoMarkins personally. Abusuya yinte na course message. How does say be media GH? But more than subscribe like na boy share for person be eti no. Enya bi enti. Yeah, that's
in his style as a Chief Justice and the other arms of government. How do you anticipate this will go, and listening to him and the caliber of person that he is?
Okay. When you go to Britain, we have the supremacy of Parliament. That's why in political science we say that Parliament can do anything at all except turning a man into a woman and a woman into a man. But when you come to Ghana, ours is different. It's the supremacy of the Constitution. So I anticipate that Justice Baffoe Bonnie would interpret the Constitution to the extent that both Parliament and the Executive would not have anything overriding against the interests of the judiciary, because it's only the judiciary that protects the rights of the people. So when you have a wrong judiciary, as Isaiah said in the Bible, it is the whole nation suffers. So based on, as you started from, based on what I know about him, if we could discipline a whole former head of state, and not a former head of state like Asumdwe Atamex or the gentle giant, what do you call him? J. But the wild wolf, Jerry John Wallace. If you could discipline him, then it means that you can really be an effective Chief Justice, unless you are in to disappoint Ghanaians.
Did his answers and his posture show that he can handle pressure and scrutiny?
This is not even a question to be asked, because he started as a circuit court judge up to where he is. So he doesn't fear the public, he doesn't fear anybody. And I remember he gave one answer which many people didn't understand. You know.
Is it in the case of the Atai, where he sentenced him to 70 years?
Yes, and he said if it was lower, this man will come back and then attack my family first.
That it was personalized, it was a personalized verdict.
It was not a personalized verdict. People like you and I will have to explain to the public that when a judge is sentencing you, he takes so many things into consideration. If you're a teenager, he won't give you a long sentence because you need to come and serve society. So he'll give you very relatively short one. Okay. And then he will recommend some training, apprenticeship should be given to you, even when in prison. And then if you are old, like me, as I sit here, more than 60 years. So if I commit the same offense as somebody who is 20 years or up to 38 years, and it is robbery, for example, he can decide to give me, let's say, 20 years. Because he knows that when I come out about 80 years, I won't have the strength and the ability to go and rob again. But when you are in your 20s and early 30s, he has to give you very harsh sentence so that society will keep you away. And the time you come in, you either die over there, or when you come in, you will be too weak to be active. That was what he was saying. Okay. He said, you attack my family first. He's telling you, not only my family, your family, that person's family, everybody's family. So people who are robbers. And in one of the escapades of Atai, you didn't know a policeman was killed. You understand? So if you want to attack the Chief Justice for the answer he gave, why don't you attack Atai first for killing the policeman? Why don't you have sympathy for the family of the policeman?
So those kind of sentences would have replaced the firing squad and all of that.
That's the best answer.
Okay.
We keep you away forever.
Lawyer, we have to wrap up, and so I just want you to tell us overall if the vetting process gave you any confidence that the Chief Justice will do the bidding of Ghanaians, and then the judicial system will be more strengthened than it was when he came into the office.
You see, we all know that when you live with your stepmother, you become brilliant more, because they teach you so many bad things that will pin you down, and you fight your way up. You are not pampered. In the case of this Chief Justice, he would always remember how, possibly in the first time of the history of Ghana, Parliament, the minority, had to walk away because of him. So with that, and then also the fact that his senior, when I say his senior, the immediate past Chief Justice will be his senior, not in terms of service, but in terms of position.
The office. Okay.
The office. You know, not that she went on pension, but she was dismissed and you came.
Right.
So with that, I'll conclude by saying that Justice Baffoe Bonnie would always be minded of the Nigerian proverb, the Yoruba proverb, which says that when the frog in front falls into the pit, the others following take caution. Justice Baffoe Bonnie would take caution. What happened to my sister can happen to me, and he will, for that reason, work very hard.
Okay. I believe ABF Fuseni will say that the money one is when your bed is on fire.
Dasantis also said that.
Okay,
you also fetch water
and keep it close to you.
Yeah, Dasantis also said that. Yes.
Thank you so much, lawyer, for speaking with us. We've looked at a lot about the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee, Paul Baffoe Bonnie, and lawyers made his recommendations about how the justice system can be strengthened. He's talked about backlogs and how efficient the circuit, appeals, and high courts can work if the Chief Justice puts all of the answers that he gave, the MPs in Parliament who pose those questions to him about him becoming the Chief Justice and what that will mean for Ghana's judiciary. And so lawyer Anoche Frimpong is a legal practitioner and a historian. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Always. I'm Multi-Decided Sadik. Up next is this exclusive interview with the GJA award winners, and Valerie is coming up with them. Stay with us.
Mind that he will do a great job. It's just unfortunate earlier on what happened, that we allow politics to get in the middle of something that is of a national interest, as appointing a Chief Justice, because of historically things that have gone on for a while. So that bit was unfortunate, but I think we work with rules, and then in any eventuality, there is actually a way out, as there was one today when our colleagues unfortunately decided to leave the process. But there was a way out for us to continue. And I think we did a good job in terms of the questioning and all that. We didn't take a back seat and said that our colleagues are gone, therefore we wouldn't ask interesting and tough questions, which I believe we did. And to an extent, even where the majority leader had to preempt what was supposed to be questions that if they had stayed, they would have asked. So I think we did justice to the issue. A lot had been done. As I said, you don't just call a conclave. You've got to talk to people. There are behind the scenes talk. When you have an agreement that you can actually come to conclave and agree something, that's when you come to conclave. You can't just say, let's go to conclave and talk, when people are not in a position to talk. So I think everything, as I said, we've been having these discussions about this vetting, throughout the weekend and even before that. And as far as I'm concerned, as a vice chairman, I have been involved in all meetings on both sides. I mean, leadership on both sides. And I think we've got this soon, and that we were going to have a pleasant one, especially learning from experience on what has happened in the past. I mean, this is not the first time we're doing vetting. We've done about 60 plus with judges, and then we know what happened in some of them. We know the ones that also went well. So one would have thought that we've learned our lessons, and then with experience.
And I mean, ever since we left law school, it's been quite chaotic getting the students into the law school. Remember, a question was asked whether we had too many lawyers, and the answer was apt. I mean, from 1877 to today, only 11,400 lawyers have been trained against a population of 35 million people. And nearly half of these numbers are in corporate world. And so we need more. So legal reforms and legal education reforms is one of the key things. And I'm happy he answered it so very well, that the reforms, my office as chairman for constitutional legal, I'm seized with the matter of legal reforms that will demystify this whole issue of entrance examinations to the law school. I mean, this will be a thing of the past. This is the last entrance examination students will have to struggle to 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 students will have to struggle for just 1,500 seats. And so for me, that stood out very clearly. And then also, I mean, his answers regarding the Supreme Court itself. Indeed, if you see the number of cases that travel right from the lower level to the Supreme Court, that is why the Supreme Court is inundated with issues. So if you could have, I mean, a special court for sure, or if cases could terminate at a certain point rather than all cases getting to the Supreme Court, it's one of the ways that we can reduce the backlog that he has. Generally, he had very great ideas, and you can see that he has a plan to reform the judiciary. But there is an issue about what we are discussing in court. Does not prevent us. Nobody and no person can prevent Parliament from exercising its constitutional duty. You can challenge the outcome. That's your right. But exercising your duty, your constitutional mandate, indeed, the exercise we did, there's a constitutional imperative. And that ought to be done. Exactly what we did. So their walkout was just a facade. I mean, they had planned it long ago.
But looking for the opportunity to do it. You were intolerant because you would not allow their leader to even make the statement before you react to it. Every sentence comes with an interjection from the majority leader.
They had a script they were marking, and we didn't want them to mark that script.
Why?
I mean, apparently, you see, if you come here and impugn the integrity of persons who are not here to defend themselves, that is not tolerated by Parliament. And our rules frown on that. And so if you start that, majority leader will not allow you to go ahead with that. If you mention anybody's name here, the rules of natural justice, basic law, requires that you give the person a hearing. And those people are not here. If you impugn the integrity of a whole committee that was set up by the president, and which is not part of the subject matter. And so these are basic things majority leader was just averting his mind to say, stay off from these tangential issues because they do not help the cause of what we are doing. Clearly that we never frustrated anybody. They had a script that they marked it well, and they worked out well.
You reject that allegation?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's...
They came here to score political points. What is this thing about dependency of cases? They went to court and lost in the first instance. They wanted to injunct, first of all, the process of appointing a chief justice and failed. And so at that point, I thought that they would have seen reason and participated in the vetting of His Lordship, the chief justice nominee. But they decided to stage a walkout because they came to the conclusion that rather than sit in there and vet the distinguished justice and see him acquit himself well, they would rather stage a walkout and make it look like the vetting was one-sided. But you saw how his lordship distinguished himself, his wealth of experience, his knowledge of the law. I mean, you can't question any of that. So if you decide to stage a walkout merely because you have filed lawsuits at the ECOWAS court, well, you want the judiciary to experience a power vacuum because you have a suit before an ECOWAS court or even another suit before the Supreme Court. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You know, you can't injunct the president from performing his constitutional mandate. And that is what he did when he nominated Justice Baffoe Bonnie as the Chief Justice. And you saw how he distinguished himself.
They don't feel a part of it. Then they decide they don't want to be part. Okay. And then they will be right only when in future Justice Baffoe Bonnie misbehaves. Then they can come back to say Yanka.
Because they have to work with him, right?
Yeah. If he misbehaves, then they will say Yanka. The man is not good, that's why we work out. But to the extent that he does not misbehave, and especially if he impresses, then it means it will not be a game having gone out.
Okay, now well, let's look at how realistic some of his reforms, suggested reforms, are. Virtual delivery of, verdicts, using AI to empanel judges, he mentioned. New ways, advanced, modern ways of improving the judicial process to reduce the backlog of cases. Did it sound realistic to you? You're practicing, and your colleagues, you probably know what they go through and how difficult it is.
100%. Because, you see, if it takes AI to select judges, that would be very fine. Because I remember many years ago, you went to the registry to file a case, and you could tell the registrar that I want my case to go to Judge A or B. So if today he's going to, in fact, it has changed now. Now they have a system like the lottery. Okay. What do you call the registered name, given to that suit. They will feed all in the system, and then the
digital system.
Yeah. So if he continues or even improves upon them by the AI he's talking about is very good. And then the delivery of judgment too. When you go to America, Britain, and other systems, we are supposed to follow them. You see, the judge always has this national service persons. Okay. Many of them. So, for example, if you are High Court A judge in Accra, and very soon it will happen. Amen. You understand? You are the judge. You have, let's say, 2 national service persons from their law school who have joined you. Once they have just come from law school, they are very sharp with fresh cases, with everything sharp, and they want to impress. So all your judgments you give them, they will go and do research and come out with the whole thing. Then they sit down with you to discuss it. So here you will see that in a week, you can dispose of 2 or 3 cases because you are working with a team. So you two have time to rest. So we come back and you only read the judgments. And don't forget that the student judges are helping you. They don't know any of the litigants. So whatever they are doing is something that is straight and according to law. Okay. I beg to say this truth. Sometimes, I won't say all times, there are certain judges who would want to write their own judgments for certain reasons. And we are human, you know that. So sometimes you become so human to the extent that it makes the work of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court very difficult. Why very difficult? If the judgments from the District Court, the Circuit Court, the High Court are that sound, the lawyers who have lost the case read through with their clients and say that, look, this one you can't appeal. So when you do that, very few cases will go on appeal. So it means that the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court courts will have an opportunity to deal with everything timelessly. Much work. The Chief Justice should do much work at the district magistrate level, circuit court level, and the high court, so that the judgment that can be very efficient, so that when you go on appeal, you won't succeed, so you will even go.
Okay, absolutely. Let's look at the relationship between his style as a Chief Justice and the other arms of government. How do you anticipate this will go, and listening to him and the caliber of person that he is?
Okay. When you go to Britain, we have the supremacy of Parliament. That's why in political science we say that Parliament can do anything at all except turning a man into a woman and a woman into a man. But when you come to Ghana, ours is different. It's the supremacy of the Constitution. So I anticipate that Justice Baffoe Bonnie would interpret the Constitution to the extent that both Parliament and the Executive would not have anything overriding against the interests of the judiciary, because it is only the judiciary that protects the rights of the people. So when you have a wrong judiciary, as Isaiah said in the Bible, it is the whole nation suffers. So based on, as you started from, based on what I know about him, if you could discipline a whole former head of state, and not a former head of state like Asumdwehene Atamex or the gentle giant, what do you call him?
Jay
Kofour, but the wild wolf, Jerry John Wallace. If you could discipline him, then it means that you can really be an effective Chief Justice, unless you are in to disappoint Ghanaians.
Did his answers and his posture show that he can handle pressure and scrutiny?
This is not even a question to be asked, because he started as a circuit court judge up to where he is. So he doesn't fear the public, he doesn't fear anybody. And I remember he gave one answer which many people didn't understand. Is
it in the case of the Atai where he sentenced him to 70 years?
Yes, and he said if it was lower, this man will come back and then attack my family.
Reasons the magistrates, the judge, they are trained. They have this. The sentencing guidelines. They have them, but sometimes they have to go beyond it. In my youthful days, I gave somebody 70 years. Atai, I gave him 70 years. And what I told myself was that if Atai was given 30 years and he comes back, my family will be the first family he will attack. So by the time he comes back after 70 years, I'll be dead and gone. So you see, then we are thinking about community service. Yes, there are some people who, if you give 3 years, 4 years, touch wood, if I am convicted and sentenced to 4 years in prison at Insawam, I may not eat prison food for even a day. I will have some people bring food to me. So if you want to make me feel the prison punishment, prison sentence, then maybe you should order me to go and do community service. Maybe around the place where I stole, or around the courts, that they'll see me, because punishments are not only for